everyone. Welcome to Stephanie Plans and Reads. Thank you for being here. On this channel, I mainly share planner-related content. Sometimes I share reading content and book-related content as well because I do read a lot, and today I want to talk to you about Goodreads and your reading goal. First, before we get started, I just want to say that I do have a bit of a cold, so my voice is, quite a bit lower than it normally is, so I apologize for that. But I'm going to be talking a little bit about my reading habits, my reading background, going through a little bit of the Goodreads website, and just talking to you about my reading goals. So first, a bit of background. I've been tracking my reading on Goodreads since 2014, and I'll talk more about that later. Before I started tracking my reading on Goodreads, I had no idea how much I was reading. Reading was my primary hobby, and I knew I was reading a lot, but I never really calculated how much I was reading. But when I started tracking on Goodreads, I started thinking about my reading and wanting to, document it. And so I started tracking on Goodreads and started doing the reading challenges, which I'll show you in a second, but also having kind of a dedicated space to, in my planners, to kind of outline what I was reading and kind of talk about what I was reading and, just kind of have a little bit more fun with the actual process of reading. Okay, so as you can see, this is my Goodreads account. And as you can see, this is my, right here is my 2023 reading challenge. Every year they have different reading challenges, and I have been participating since 2014, I believe. Or at least I've been a member since 2014. And as you can see, I have pretty much always met or exceeded my reading goals. So for 2015, I exceeded it. 2016, 2017, 2019. Obviously, with COVID, I increased the reading goal here to 115, and I exceeded that. So I had obviously 2021, my goal, again, I upped it because of COVID, so it was 185 and I read 201. But you can see that here that I've always met or exceeded my reading goals, and I had no reason to think that this year would be any different. But as you can see, this year I am not going to meet my reading goals. My goal was set at 100, and I've only read 67. And that leaves me with 23 to read, and I'm probably not going to get all of those done in the time that we have left. In fact, I know I won't get them all done in the time that we have left. So I thought I'd talk a little bit about why, and maybe why it's okay that I'm not going to reach my goals in my reading goals in 2023, and maybe this will help you if you are also struggling to meet your Goodreads goal as well. So I'm not going to make my Goodreads goal this year. And I'd like to talk about some of those reasons. So the first reason why I won't be meeting my Goodreads goal is I've had a few big life changes. So me and my partner moved from the UK to Canada. I left, my job, and the place I was living to come back to Canada. And that kind of stress of moving and stress of coming to another country, even if it's a country I knew before, changed my focus from reading and hobbies into more things that needed to get done. I had to do this. I had to focus on packing. I had to focus on the problems with my job that I was leaving, and what was happening next in terms of what I'm going to be doing. And so they needed those kind of things, those big life changes needed my time and energy. They needed my focus. And that, of course, took away focus from some of the other things that I like to do. And that obviously was reading. So it's okay that sometimes life happens. And it's okay for when there are times in your life when your hobby has to kind of take a back seat to more, pressing concerns of your life. I'll be able to pick up my reading hobby when things in my life settle down a bit more. I'll be able to dedicate more time to my hobbies when things settle down. And I shouldn't, and you shouldn't, worry about times in your life when certain things have to take a back seat because of other things taking a priority. The second reason why I will not be meeting my Goodreads reading goals was because I got a new hobby. When I began to start putting out planner-related content and making a YouTube channel and dedicating my Instagram and other social media to this community, I didn't think that I'd be putting in any more work than I already was. I was already, filling out a planner, putting pictures of my planner on Instagram. I was already doing book journals and other kinds of journals. So I didn't think that any of this would be that much extra time. But like anything, you get out of it what you put into it. And I want to have the best channel that I can have for me. I want to create content that I enjoy and that I think people will enjoy. And that requires time and effort into making it the best that it can be for me. There was also a bit of a learning curve. I had to learn how to do certain things. And this is going to be the case when you start any new hobby. New hobbies require time. They require time and energy in order for you to get them off the ground, to understand the hobby, to participate in all of the different aspects of a hobby. And that's okay. In fact, developing new hobbies is fun and exciting, and it was where I wanted to put my energy. So when I did have extra time, I was going towards this hobby rather than my reading hobby. And that's okay, because as I said, starting a new hobby means that you want to put all of your energies into it. It's exciting, it's new, and that's normal. And once I learn more about this hobby and become quicker at editing and quicker at filming and things like that, I'm going to have more and more time to go back to my original hobby, which was reading. The third and last reason why I won't reach my Goodreads goal this year, and that's okay, is because I persisted with too many genres, too many series and too many books that I just wasn't enjoying. So instead of DNFing or putting a book down, I tended to try to push through too often this year when I could have just made a wiser choice and decided that that book was not for me. And I'll just give you a little insight into my reading. It's a bit strange, and I'll acknowledge that it's a bit strange. Let's just look at February for an example. So these are the books that I was reading in the month of February. I read 10 to 15 books at a time, mainly in 5-ish genres, and I kind of cycle through them and read parts of them throughout the week. So, for example, I read quite a few different books this week, and then I just track the pages that I read. And then you'll see that this one has a little 3 beside it. So that was the 3rd book I finished that month. So what this means is that normally, if I'm not enjoying a book, for example, I can go to another one in my list. Or if I'm just not in the mood for romance, say, I can find a spy novel or a detective novel that I'd rather read. So for me, that works. And I've been doing it for my whole life. And I don't forget what I'm reading. That's the number one question people ask is, how do you remember what you've read? I just remember. I've just trained my brain to think that way, and that's just the way it is. But this year I found quite a lot of the books that I was reading, and not necessarily the books on this list, I'm just using this as an example, but I wasn't enjoying. And so I'd moved to the next one, and I wasn't really enjoying that one either. And a lot of times they were books that were continuations of a series. And I had read, 4 books out of the series. And then the 5th book was kind of dragging on. And it seemed so much like the 4th and 3rd and 2nd book. And I just wasn't enjoying it that much. And when a book isn't, there's not necessarily, it's not a bad book, but it wasn't just grabbing me. And when books don't really grab me, then I tend not to want to read for long periods of time or go back to that book with any sort of frequency. And this meant that because I wasn't invested or interested in these books, that I read less. And obviously I cannot meet my goal if I'm reading less than what I would normally read. But this is also okay, because this has given me some knowledge that I can use going forward to give up on series when they're not doing it for me. They maybe started that way, and then they kind of hit a wall, or I hit a wall with it, and yeah, I can just stop reading the series. It's okay. I'm a bit of a completionist, and so I like to finish things, but there are so many wonderful books out there for me to read, and I don't need to be forcing myself to read something I'm not enjoying. I also need to remember to DNF books that I'm not enjoying. Even if they're not part of a series, I can just get rid of them. I can just stop reading them. And I should have done it a lot sooner. I have DNF'd books in the past, but this year I found I hadn't done it enough, and I was just encountering a lot of books that were all right, but not stellar. And so I don't need to read them if I don't want to. So I can stop and DNF. And DNFs could be just a DNF for now, and I might get back to it. So those are the 3 reasons why I'm not going to reach my Goodreads goal this year, and why that's okay. Are you on track for your reading goals? Are there other goals that you've not been able to meet this year and you're kind of struggling with the feelings of guilt? For 2024, I'm setting my reading goal at 100. But I'm not going to feel guilty if I don't get 100 books read in 2024. Because at the end of the day, it's just reading. It's not that serious, is it? Let me know in the comments below if you've struggled with your reading goals this year. Are you going to meet your reading goals? Do you track it on Goodreads? Are there other goals that you're having difficulty meeting this year? And can you put yourself through the same process and think about why you haven't met them? And will you be able to do them next year, perhaps? If you want to see more from me, click that like button, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so that you know when I have new videos on YouTube. Thank you so much for joining, and I'll see you in my next video.